You're listening to Holy Sync Radio Podcast. Today's podcast, today's the day.
You know how many times in my life I've said, I'll deal with that tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll slow down. Tomorrow I'll get serious about God. Tomorrow I'll deal with what I'm feeling. Tomorrow I'll stop drinking like this. Tomorrow I'll figure out why. With everything I had worked for, I still wasn't happy. And the crazy thing is, I wasn't sitting around doing nothing. I was working. I was building, I was providing. From the outside, you could look at my life and think, what's the problem? But I knew something wasn't right. And I kept thinking tomorrow was going to be the day I finally dealt with it. Tomorrow turned into years.
Welcome to the Holy Sync Radio Podcast. I'm Nilsa.
And I'm Thomas. Today's episode comes from a song by the Worship Room called Today's the Day. And I love the line, today's the day, I choose your way. Because this isn't really an episode about motivation. It's about that space between knowing and doing. You know you need to have the conversation. You know you need to apologize. You know you need to walk away from something. You know you need to ask for help. You know God has been pulling on you, but you keep saying, not today. Looking back, I don't think I was protecting my comfort as much as I was protecting the life I had built. Because if I admitted something was wrong, then I might have to change something. And that's scary. I had built an identity around being the guy who could handle things, work harder, make more money, buy something, make a joke, go have a drink, stay busy enough that you don't have to sit quietly and ask yourself why none of it is working. And alcohol became part of that. There was a period of my life when I was drinking 6 nights a week. I've told you guys before about waitresses cutting me off. That's not somebody having a drink to relax. That's somebody trying not to feel something, but I didn't call it that then. I could always explain it. I've been working hard. I'm stressed. I'm just having fun. Everybody needs to unwind. I'll slow down eventually. And eventually is one of those words that can steal years from you.
But there's something you're leaving out. You make it sound like you knew exactly what you were running from. I don't think you always did.
You're right. I didn't.
Sometimes the people around you can see that you're struggling before you can. And with you, being busy looked productive. Working looked responsible. Making people laugh looked like you were happy. So some of the things you were using to hide didn't look like hiding. That's what makes it difficult. Not everything that keeps you stuck looks bad. Sometimes it looks successful.
That's good because you can hide in a bar, but you can also hide in an office.
I'm different from Thomas. He tends to process things outwardly. I process things internally, and that can create its own kind of waiting. Because sometimes you tell yourself, I'm thinking about it, I'm processing it, I'm praying about it, and those can all be good things. But eventually, there comes a point where processing can become postponing. There are times when God has already shown you enough for the next step. Maybe not the whole plan, just the next step. And I think that's something I've had to learn too.
That's actually an important distinction because waiting on God and waiting because you're afraid aren't necessarily the same thing.
Exactly. And sometimes we use, I'm waiting on God, when God might be waiting on us to obey what He's already told us. There have been seasons in my own life when I said, I'm waiting on God. But I've learned that sometimes God is saying, I'm waiting on you. When I was going through my military retirement and everything surrounding my rank and retirement pay felt uncertain and frustrating, I had moments when I wanted God to just fix it. But instead, I felt Him reminding me to do what I could do: make the calls, send the documentation, follow up, keep praying, and keep believing. The breakthrough wasn't always immediate, but my obedience was required before I could see the outcome. Sometimes faith isn't sitting still waiting for God to move. Sometimes faith is taking the next step because God has already told you what to do.
Here's the part I wish somebody had gotten through my thick head years ago. Waiting isn't free. We talk about putting something off like nothing happens while we're waiting. Something is happening. You're spending days, you're spending relationships, you're spending peace, you're spending opportunities, you're spending time. And time is the one thing you can't go earn back. If I could sit across from the younger version of myself, I wouldn't yell at him. I'd probably tell him, all this stuff you're using to keep from dealing with what's inside you isn't fixing anything. You're just renting peace. And eventually, the bill comes due. And for the teenagers listening, don't think you have to be drinking 6 nights a week for this to apply to you. Maybe you're staying in a relationship you already know isn't good for you. Maybe there's something happening in a group chat that you know you need to get away from. Maybe you're hanging around people because you're terrified of what happens if they don't accept you anymore. Maybe there's something you need to tell your parents. Maybe you're hiding behind your phone. Maybe you know you need help. Waiting has a cost. I wish I could tell you there was one movie moment. Lightning struck. God spoke from the clouds. Everything changed. That's not really my story. It was more like I finally got tired. Tired of running. Tired of trying to fill something that couldn't be filled with another drink, another accomplishment, another possession, another distraction. And eventually, I had to become honest with myself. This isn't working. And that's where surrender started becoming real, not perfection. Surrender, there's a difference. Because I didn't suddenly have everything figured out. I still don't. But there comes a point when God is standing there with the door open, and you have to decide whether you're going to keep explaining why you can't walk through it or take a step. And looking back now, God was there long before I recognized what he was doing.
There's a verse that fits this perfectly, but the story around it matters. Paul is writing to the church in Corinth. These weren't people who had never heard about God. They knew. Paul had already taught them. But knowing truth and responding to truth are two different things. And in 2 Corinthians 6:2, Paul says, "Now is the time of God's favor. Now is the day of salvation."
Now, not when you clean yourself up, not when your life gets less complicated, not after graduation, not when everybody understands your decision, not January 1st, today. And I don't hear that verse as God threatening you. I hear an invitation. Why keep carrying until tomorrow what Christ is offering to take from you today?
Can I tell you what I think teenagers especially need to hear? Sometimes I don't think you're waiting because you're lazy. I think you're waiting for permission. Permission to be different from your friends. Permission to leave the relationship. Permission to say, this isn't who I want to be anymore. Permission to take God seriously when the people around you don't. Permission to become somebody different from who everybody has decided you are. And maybe nobody is ever going to give you that permission.
Wow.
Maybe that's the point. You don't need everybody's permission to obey God. And you don't have to know exactly who you're going to become before you take the first step.
That's really good. Because I spent years letting other things tell me who I was. And sometimes the biggest decision isn't deciding what you're going to do. It's deciding whose voice you're going to follow. So here's our challenge this week. I don't want you to change your whole life by Friday. I want you to identify one thing you've been pushing into tomorrow. Just one.
And then take one real step. Send the text, have the conversation, delete the number, ask for help, tell your parents, open the Bible, pray the prayer, apologize. Whatever your step is, make it real.
And maybe your prayer tonight is only, Jesus, I've been running from this. I don't know how to fix everything, but I'm willing to take the next step with you. That's enough to start.
You don't need a new year. You don't need a Monday. You don't need everybody around you to understand.
You just need today. And that's what this week's song from the worship room is about. There's a line in it that says, I won't look back, I won't delay. Jesus, today's the day. Maybe you've heard this song before, but this time, don't just listen to it. Ask yourself one question while it plays. What have I been leaving for tomorrow that God is asking me to do today? Here's the worship room with Today's the Day.
Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us. If today's conversation encouraged you, would you share it with someone who needs to hear it? You can find Holy Sync Radio on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, right here on Holy Sync Radio. Until next time, keep your heart soft, stay in sync, and remember,
God loves you.